I smell a Metal Gear Solid remake.
If I hear one more freaking tabloid blog mention that a Metal Gear remake is confirmed, I'm going to lose my mind.
Hey, guess what? It's not confirmed for shit.
You're right. You're right.
Some guy on the internet said it's happening, and then I believed it, and I got hype again, and I don't know why I keep doing this to myself.
According to the internet, Silent Hills is being remade by Blue Point, or Silent Hill, or PT, depending on who you ask, on top of Metal Gear Solid, which is being remade by Blue Point and has been for the past 3 years.
Hey, I'm Fingers.
Hey everyone, this is Days Ahead.
And I'm Nitroid. You're listening to the Kojima Frequency.
Today on the show, we've got streamer Pat Boyven from the Twitch and YouTube channel Pat Stares At. He's also one of the hosts of Castle Super Beast podcast. What are your thoughts on all this remake madness, Pat? Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hills.
I have talked to everyone I could possibly talk to about Silent Hills. And do you know what they tell me? Dude, no. Are you like Konami? Really? Like,
They don't want to acknowledge that. It's a reminder of something that never got released for them. Of course they don't want to put it up.
You're right, guys. The company that went so far as to disable backwards compatibility for those of you who may have actually still had PT on your external hard drive, and then in the past also went to the point of turning game developers into janitors at their health clubs over petty shit like whatever the fuck design decisions or how long they took on games, and then went on to bury the Metal Gear franchise with a piece of shit right after they fired most of the staff. They're gonna come to your rescue and let somebody else just take their storied franchise and give it to the best developers, and they're gonna get your dream game. Like, are you guys like, who is insane enough to believe that shit?
A lot of people do.
That's what happens when you watch too much anime. You think there's going to be some sort of like turnaround in the last act that makes everything work.
No, that's it. That's it. People romanticize game development. They think it's some magical thing that happens and isn't a business. It doesn't work that way.
Even like the act of game development in terms of like production is not magical. The phrase magic was used by BioWare just last year to defend what was going on with Anthem. Guys, don't worry. It's all going to come together in the last 6 months, man. Oh, Mass Effect was like this. Dragon Age was like, it's just that BioWare magic, man. It's all just going to come together. Oh, shit.
I had somebody offer me a copy of Anthem for free, and I was just like, I'm good.
That's too much.
It seems like, I mean, it's so funny that people are talking about Blue Point remaking Metal Gear because we're still arguing about their fidelity on par with like the old Demon Souls. That's been kind of a touchy subject for a lot of folks.
Well, you've been playing Demon Souls, right, Pat? What do you think
I
about
literally beat the game the second time 6 minutes ago before I hopped into this.
Nice.
And that's 2 times through. The fidelity in terms of like their graphical presentation, holy shit, they're the best. The accuracy in terms of like their art design, I'd say it's hit and miss. I'd say it's like 60-40 negative, like 60 negative, 40 positive. But like the rest of the fidelity stuff just absolutely crushes it. But like, I think a way more interesting thing to talk about Blue Point remaking Metal Gear isn't Blue Point did Shadow, which was great, and Demon Souls, which I personally think is really great. It's the fact that I can't even get a straight opinion from a consensus over whether or not we even like the last Metal Gear Solid remake, which I don't. I think that game sucks.
Talking about Twin Snakes, right?
Hell yeah, I am.
You would be right, because that, you know what's funny about that? If you look at the art design in Twin Snakes and compare it to the original, it's night and day, almost literally in some cases, because they suck the color out of most of the sets and just coat them in as much bright light as possible, and it just strips them of any character that they might have had. And what's screwed up about it is that game was overseen by Kojima Productions, and they still didn't get it right. So I'm fully expecting if Blue Point does remake this, it's just going to be dark and blue and gritty, and it's not going to have any of the tone or nuance that the original had. I'm very I'm not hopeful.
It's going to be like the Call of Duty route, like what they did with Modern Warfare. It's just going to be like hella military, hella realistic.
Do you think they're going to add the 2 pipes and the Rex layer like they did in Twin Snakes to completely skip the PAL card heating?
Dude, I don't even know about that. What are you talking about?
Okay, so okay, you remember in MGS1 you had to backtrack all the way to heat the PAL key and cool the PAL key, and that act of having to backtrack and put in all this annoying effort sort of lent itself to the betrayal that came immediately after, right? You're like, I put in all that work, you son of a bitch! You know?
It takes half an hour.
Yeah. Well, in the Twin Snakes, in Rex's lair, if you just look to the right, there are heating and cooling pipes that you can stand by, and you shoot them, and it blows steam out, and it instantly heats and cools the key. The whole segment takes 3 minutes.
Wow, I totally did not do that at all, and just went back and did it the old way.
Yep.
Is there any other clue, besides the visual indicator, though? Is there ever a codec call that, hints at that?
If there is, I didn't look for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be, some key secret for those who've already played.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you catch that on the first playthrough, you deserve it.
Yeah, it's really, really awkward, but it's kind of a metaphor for how they treat Twin Snakes, or how they treat MGS1 in regards to Twin Snakes.
It's just a throwaway.
Right.
What are you even going to do with that game? Mechanically, it's so far in the past that if you just gave it a graphical upgrade like they did with Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls, it's not going to work. You can make it look like a game from 2020, but it's going to play like a game from 1998. So they're going to have to redesign that thing from the ground up.
Unless you decide to make it play like a game from 2001? Was that Metal Gear Solid 2?
Yeah.
Which is what they did for Twin Snakes, which breaks just half the encounters in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You can beat Ocelot in 5 seconds.
But what if they actually take that advice and go, okay, you can't do any of that first person stuff, and if they kind of restrict the stuff back to the PS1 version instead of just building on what Twin Snakes did?
Honestly, I would think that the biggest problem is that because of the game's top-down view, all the work that they put into it, a lot of it would go to waste.
Yeah, they're gonna want to show it off like I keep saying Final Fantasy VII. It's you want to look up and see the plate and just kind of rotate the camera.
You'd have the first person button, so you'd be able to get up to a tray and be like, ooh, wow, the floor's really high texture. But most of the time, Snake is the size of a quarter on your TV.
Yeah.
So they would have to fundamentally redesign those environments to match a new gameplay style, which I'm assuming, again, if any of this crap is true, that they would opt for something more in line with MGSV, that sort of system.
Yeah, the whole thing seems pulled out of somebody's ass. None of the parts, none of the pieces of this actually fit together, because Blue Point does exhaustive, pixel to pixel attempts at recreating. It's more along the lines of something like a restoration than a remake, where they try and scour off the grime of time and make it look like how you thought it looked. But with MGS1, how say you made it look all fancy, it would still have the same camera angle as Silent Bomber, and no matter how much fancy next gen glitz you can put on it, I mean, it would apply in the cutscenes, but for most of the game, it would just look like a high end indie game.
Yeah,
you'd be too far away from it.
It'll have to be a different game.
I don't think that game is real at all.
Yeah.
A lot of other people have been requesting, though. They're like, no, don't do that. Do Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake together and turn it into some kind of modern experience. Turn those games into some kind of modern experience.
That would be way preferable, because those games are old as shit.
They're definitely tough. They're NES hard for sure.
we're talking about remaking Metal Gear Solid, right? I'm just going through Demon Souls, and it's a good point of comparison because there's something that I'm learning every time you get one of these one-to-one remakes, particularly when you're keeping the same guts, like not from Resident Evil 1 to remake, right? Because that changed everything around. It was like a spiritual remake kind of thing. But when you're using the same guts, you know what sucks and no one is ever overall happy with in the long term is when they even go and get the same voice actors to re-record the same lines like 10, 15, 20 years later, because they don't hit the same way. Like in Twin Snakes, I don't like any of that re-recorded dialogue.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, I was about to bring up.
Especially Naomi.
Naomi doesn't have an accent. Yeah.
Like, that's really weird. Mei Ling losing the accent, that makes sense because it made no sense that she had one in the first place. She's born in California. Why the fuck does she have like a native Chinese accent? Doesn't make any sense. But Naomi is supposed to sound like she's from fucking Rhodesia. And then she just stops. And then in MGS4, she also just gave up. She got no accent at all. It's just Jen Hale.
The worst part about her performance in Twin Snakes, though, is that she just sounds the whole time like she doesn't care. It's completely monotone the entire game.
Didn't like David Hayter like cut some of his paycheck so that
Yeah.
the original cast could join?
Yeah, he did.
So it's like
That's
he's
awesome.
taking everybody out to dinner and like they're just getting a salad or some shit. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you can criticize David Hayter's performance in the later games after MGS1, but that man,
Boy,
gives a
will
shit.
I.
I take it you're not a fan of the Peace Walker groveling?
It's out of control.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Like, I'm torn because on the one hand, like the way Kojima personally treated Hater in terms of the MGS5 stuff, in that it's like didn't even call him kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's particularly cool. But in terms of moving to a new voice actor in general, like Hater was very public that like to do the Snake voice, he'd hit whiskey over time. Like I think he started at MGS3 because his voice was being shredded by doing that growl.
Yeah.
And you get to Peace Walker and it's just, oh man.
It's almost like a caricature of Snake at that point.
Yeah. That AI scene where he's just like, no, answer me. And just like, it's like, holy shit.
Tell me why. Answer me.
You know what's kind of screwed up is that they've been trying to recast him since MGS3. He had to re-audition for Snake every single time. In fact, for MGS3, originally Kojima wanted to get Kurt Russell, which they even extended an official offer